Hi guys, welcome to another video of the CKAD Labs. So in this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to create a deployment using an YAML file. So to do that, first we will create a YAML file for deployment, and we will go through the various components of the YAML file required for a deployment in Kubernetes. So let's create a YAML file. I will name it deployment. Now we will define the various components of the YAML file. Firstly, we will define the API version, which is going to be app/v1, kind, which is deployment, then the metadata for the deployment. Metadata actually contains name for the deployment, it can contain annotations, and then it contains label for the deployment itself. So we will name this deployment Nginx deployment, as it is said in the question. We can label it. I can label it as app deployment. Now we will define the specification section of the deployment. So what is a specification for a deployment? And actually, what is a deployment? So deployment is a collection of identical pods. So each time we create a pod, we manage it and then we delete it. Consider working on a project and we need to create multiple pods. We need to manage them. We need to scale them up, upscale them, downscale them. Then we need to roll forward, then roll back, create a new instance of a pod. So to manage all those things, we have deployment as a resource in Kubernetes. And in the specification section, we define how many replicas we need for the deployment. Replicas is actually the value of the number of pods that we need in the deployment, the number of identical pods, I would say. So in the question, it is said that we need 3 replicas. So we will add here 3. And after that, we need to match something that actually matches to the pod. So how we will target a particular collection of pods which are running to this deployment. So for that, we define a selector. So we will define our selector here and we will say match labels. And we will label, as mentioned in the question, we will label it app Nginx. So we will label here it as app Nginx. And now we will define the template of the pods that we will be running for this deployment. So as we remember, a pod has 4 sections, 4 major sections: API version, kind, metadata, and specifications. The API version and kind are not included in the template section, but the metadata and the specification section of the pod is defined here. So now we will kind of create a YAML component for the pod, but it only contains the metadata section and the spec section of that pod. So we will create a metadata section for the pod. We will name it, we can name it here. Let's name it Nginx. And then we will label it as app Nginx. This label here should match this label. Then only the deployment will be created and it will create the required pods. Now we will define the specification section of the pod. So we will define the container. We'll name it Nginx. We will, for the image part, we will be using Nginx latest. So this is a basic YAML structure of a deployment. We are creating an Nginx deployment as mentioned in the question. We are running a container named Nginx having an Nginx latest image, and we are creating 3 replicas of it. So we have 3 replicas here. So now if I go and close this file, and then to create a deployment, we will do create -f. So we are passing a YAML file to the kubectl command. This will create a deployment for us named Nginx deployment. Now we can check the deployment using kubectl get deployments. So here we see we have created an Nginx deployment. We have defined 3 replicas and 0 are up as of now. So if we see the pods are now running. So now if we check the deployment, it's up now. So yes, here we have the deployment. To see the additional details of the deployment, we can run the describe command on the deployment itself. By running kubectl describe deployments Nginx deployment, it shows all the details that we have defined for the deployment. Here it defines the replicas. Here it defines the selector. Here it defines the label on the deployment itself. Now let's go and check whether we have implemented this correctly or not. So yep, we have successfully created a deployment using a YAML file. Thanks for watching.